today, I think we're all here to talk about good lives and what that means as a framework and what different members are doing to contribute to it. So I think we're all going to talk about how we can work together in doing that. And it's great to see so many of you here to have that conversation with us today. We're going to talk about some of the different ways the framework can be used and the different roles that everyone might play within that. And I think importantly, we need to kind of remind everybody that Learning Disability England's role in that is to be a bit of a host and a facilitator. So the framework doesn't belong to us, it belongs to everybody. And any contributions, additions that people want to make are really welcome. So yeah, just a reminder of that really.
So we're not controlling it.
Yes.
You're in control.
Yes. And one thing I think us all to think about as we go through today is how we might include some of the voices that we haven't heard a lot of so far while we've been making the framework. So people with labels like PMLD, people from minority ethnic groups or from the LGBT community, for us all to think about how we can help their voices be heard. I think that'll be really important as we go through. So our agenda today, Gary is going to go next and he's going to give us a quick reminder of the framework, what it means and what's included. Henry is going to give us a quick run through of some of the things that people have already told us about it. I'm going to share some ideas that we had of different ways we can contribute. And then we're going to go into breakout rooms and everyone's going to have a bit of a discussion before we come back and share the ideas with everybody. So I hope that all makes sense. And now I'm going to try and find your presentation, Gary, so you can jump in on that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Right.
You see
yeah,
Gary,
good. Yeah. And when we started doing about good lives, it was back in February 2020 in Birmingham. This is quite a long while ago. And there we are. There's a team of us putting together Good Lives, and all the flip chart paper you can see on the wall is all the ideas and all the orange stickers on those ideas. And we came up the top 6, I think we did. Yeah, we are. Next slide, please. What you told us is important. Self-advocates lead on what is most important. And that we also focused on rights, about being positive and offering solutions. And what Rachel said, is Learning Disability England hosted the meetings, but we didn't take control of it. That was down to the people who took part, the participants. And next slide, please. Also, we looked at the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and it's an agreement between countries. Countries say that they will not treat people differently because they are disabled. And I've got a friend who's on the UN panel of the United Nations, who has a learning disabilities himself, and he's all the way from New Zealand. Next slide, please. What people said in summer 2020 is self-advocacy and advocacy, good health, the right support, communication and staying connected. That's all about technology, most of it. Paid jobs, love, sex and relationships. And those are the top 6 we came up with. And as we say, there are 6 chapters at the moment. We hope people will work together to add more than 6 chapters. That is going to be yourselves. So we need more clever thinking, get more ideas together, and to see what things are missing. Next chapter, next slide, please. Each chapter says what the UN Convention says, what people with learning disabilities have said needs to change, and what people said would change things. Next slide. And the chapters will concentrate on things like right support, home, self-advocacy and advocacy, and communication and staying connected, contribution and paid job, to love and be loved. And as I said, that this is only a start. Not everything is on that list, and we want to add more things. Things like important things like health or accessible travel are missing. We hope people will add those, and so we need your help to put together all this. Next slide.
Oh, that one's mine, but so I think I'll pop into Henry next.
Okay, thanks very much, Rachel and Gary. I just want to give you very briefly a flavour of the kind of feedback we've received from members on the framework so far. So we've got a survey running, and we've also been inviting people to email us, to email me with any feedback that they have as well. So we'll put a link to the survey in the chat, because we're very keen to keep getting more feedback that way. So far, a couple of the things that that members have told us they will do with the framework is share it with other people and with their networks, and take part in meetings such as the one hosted by Learning Disability England today. And then obviously going forward, we want to use this session to think about what else we can do, or what else you can do with the framework. We asked the question, what is good about the framework? And we've heard from people so far that they like the fact that it's owned by people, that it's owned by the community. As Gary said, it's not owned by Learning Disability England. We're just hosting and facilitating. It's owned by people. It's owned by everyone, and people seem to like that. Also, the strong human rights focus in the framework, people like that. As Gary pointed out, with the UN Convention featuring in every chapter, that's something that we've heard that people like as well. We've heard the framework described as good, and we've also heard it described as excellent, which we're really happy about. But we also know that the document is by no means perfect, and it's by no means finished. So that's where you come in, and where everyone else comes in, and we know there's still lots of work to do on the framework and on, putting it into practice. We've heard that, as Gary said, we've heard we need chapters on transport, which is something very important to to a lot of people's good life, and that we've also heard we need chapters on education and early years as well as something very important to having a good life. So we're obviously going to act on that feedback. We also heard that we need to make sure that the framework works for all people with a learning disability and autistic people, including people who are non-verbal as well. So that's obviously some feedback that we're going to act on as well. And I'll put the link to the survey in the chat as well, because we're really keen to get more people's feedback on the framework. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. I quickly would like to share with you guys some ideas of small actions people can take to contribute towards good lives. Some of these things we heard at the conference, or I've heard with other members when we've been talking about what they think they might do. So one of the big things I think that came out of the conference was people making pledges to include people whose voices are often excluded. And that was something I mentioned at the beginning as well. So for everyone to think about how they can do that, you know, and the different ways that they might be able to do that. To test all of the decisions that are being made using the framework, and whether that decision and that change or that action will help us move towards good lives, or whether it'll be a step back. So I think when we're thinking about strategies or you know, planning, that can be the framework can act as a really useful guide there. And at Learn Disability England, we're all about, you know, taking those creative decisions and not being worried about failing. You know, we have to try and work in different ways, and the framework offers a good thing to bounce off, I think, there. That kind of leads into the next one, where it's a guide for organisations to start making some practical changes, or it could be something that's taken to partnership boards or to commissioners, so they can think about how it might influence their work. Share the work that you're already doing. We know loads of you have got really interesting projects or ways of working, and if we can share that and help people learn from that, that would be really useful. Some of the groups that we've been speaking to were planning to write to their local MPs and councillors to share the framework and to help them think about what it might mean locally. As Gary was saying earlier, lots of people were planning on sharing it with lots of different people that they know and thinking about how they can all be part of it. We want to help lots of people, groups and organisations work together. So if there is a topic that you were really interested in, you could let Gary or I know, and we can help connect you with other people who might be interested in that or doing work around it, to help you guys have a conversation. We're planning on running some other sessions based on the chapters. So if you would like to be part of that and help host those conversations, we would love to hear from you. Other people were talking about being role models and leaders, and speaking up to prevent injustice. You know, there's lots of different things that we all see in our jobs, and if we know what a good life looks like, we all need to be speaking up to help make that happen. To be positive and action focused. I think we've all been sat in those meetings where we got stuck in the things that don't work, but actually that doesn't help us get very far, and if we want change, we need to be focused on that action and making it happen. And the last one is about voting and taking part in government consultations. Not always the easiest thing, I think we all know, but if we can help make that easier for people, and work together to help people's voices be heard at a more national level, that can really help us take some steps towards change. So those are some of the things that people shared with us already. And if I can get us on to the next slide, there we go. We've raced through, so actually we've potentially got a little bit more time to discuss some of these things. But we're going to pop into breakout rooms, and we'd like you to think about some of these questions. So how can the framework be used now? What actions can you take as an individual, or maybe as a group or organisation? What are the types of things that you can offer to help make change happen? Is there anyone else that you can help get involved? And what could we do to help you get involved? So what can Learning Disability England do? And is there anything missing or that you'd like to add or contribute to? So I know that's a bit of a list of questions, but I'll put them in the chat so you can all see them when you go into breakout rooms. And I think we're going to maybe go for 20 minutes and then we'll come back, and it would be great if each group could share a couple of ideas or kind of the main themes of what they've been talking about. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions? Sean, your hand was up there.
What do UN stand for?
Oh, sorry, say that again, Sean. I'm trying to do the breakout rooms.
UN conversation stands for.
What does what stand for?
UN conversation.
The UN Convention?
Yes.
Is that what you mean? Ah, okay. Gary, do you want to explain what that means again, the UN Convention? You're on mute, or would you like me to help?
Yeah, well, the UN Convention is a drawn up policy or a guide of what, how to treat people like people with disabilities. In this special, and the UN, it does lots of things. It's like a big committee of people from different countries. There's loads of different countries involved, and they all have a vote on what should be worldwide. It's a bit like our parliament, but on a much bigger scale. And on this thing, we're talking about the UN Convention. I know it's all in a bit of jargon words, but that's what happens in these big, powerful places, and it's all things like that to be passed. Not every political country gets on well with one another at these UN conventions, I tell you. So it's all to actually debate on what should be in and what should be out and all that sort of thing. It's a lot to take in. I think I explained it properly.
Does that make sense, Sean?
Yes. One more question for those all. Everyone speak as well. When you're in the breakout rooms, can I go with you? Right.
Oh, see, I think I want to stay in this main room because someone has to do that when they're the host. Do you want to go with Gary?
I'll go with you because you're my favourite.
Oh, well, that's very kind, Sean. But I'm going to have to stay in here because I'm setting it up, so it doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately. Let me see if I can stick you in a group with someone else that might be a favourite. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's really good.
Oh. Don't all be requesting it though, because I'm not clever enough to.
You put me with Dan.
Oh, okay, let me see.
Oh yeah, Gary, that would be great. We can have a laugh. I mean, obviously do lots of very serious work. We're just making it really hard for Rachel now, aren't we?
Yeah, you are like.
Yeah, she's doing her concentrating face now.
I'm going to have my tongue struck out in a moment. Let me see.
Why don't you just put us in, and if I'm not in with Gary, I'll come out, and you can always put me in.
I think we're sorted. If anyone gets stuck or lost, there should be a button to tell me, and I will try and find you. Okay, here we go. Hi Sharon, I don't know if I can help you. The message.
This meeting is being recorded.
So thank you all for coming back. I hope we didn't lose anybody in the move. And I hope you all had a really useful conversation. I wanted to ask each of the groups to maybe share a couple of points or the main themes of what they were talking about, and we can maybe use that for a bit of a prompt for the rest of our conversation, because I think we've got a little bit more time than we had planned, which never happens. So I'm not sure how we've managed it. But would anybody's group like to volunteer to go first? Go on, Gary, start us off.
I was going to say we concentrated on 2 areas, and one of them was about transport and about getting around, and it's very complicated because in different parts of local authorities, you can either use your bus pass from 9:30, or in some other areas from 9 o'clock, and the cut-off time is 11 o'clock. So there's not much of getting around. And I think from Lincolnshire to Manchester, it takes about 2 hours to get to one place to another. And that needs more faster train service. We've also thought about who we can contact on transport, and we thought about Transport for London. I think that still goes, and see if there are any other similar organisations on transport that we can contact with. So we're talking about a lot about local transport and national transport. So, and we talked about a bit about disabled rail card, the bus passes, the taxi card scheme, which happens in 3 parts of the country. And so we talked about that. And we talked about work, for not just for the younger generation, though that's important. We were talking about, from Gary Stark, he said about working for older generation people. I don't know what he means, but anyway. So we need to making sure that people are confident when they get into work, and also about them having to go to work with confidence, and what is, that fear of once they're in the job, they're not worried about paying for their bills and all that, and losing money. And I think we didn't say it, but I suppose there's the situation of the benefit trap and all that sort of thing. I hope I've covered it. Is that right, Sam?
That's what I remember as well, unless anybody, Elmy and Claire and Penny were there as well, and Gary, they might say if we forgot something, but that's what I remember.
Yeah, in North East Link, it takes 2 hours from 14. But
Thanks, Gary. So So some thoughts on maybe transport as a new chapter and some extra things to think about when we think about work and people that we might approach to talk about some of those things. That sounds really useful. Thanks, Gary. Anybody else's group want to volunteer to go next? Oh, I don't believe this quiet.
It is quiet. I wonder.
So say you're not quiet, Mark.
Who have done notes for our group, and if they can share it, I haven't. Sorry.
Can you remember one of the things that you were talking about?
My mind's gone blank.
Oh, do you know?
So much cram into one.
I was in the group with Mark and others, and we're based in Calderdale, and we've been to the Wellbeing board a couple of times. Self-advocates, they put it into 3 different categories and called it health, wealth and relationships. Health, really focusing on annual health checks and access to screening, and identifying that a lot more work needs to be done with younger people as well, regarding annual health checks. Wealth, looking at jobs and working with the local authority on, what needs to be done to improve, the number of people actually in employment. Relationships, my colleague Roy is on the call as well. He wasn't in our group, but he's done a couple of wellbeing cafes around relationships, and it was quite an interesting thing to do, and it was actually work needed to be done more with support staff. People wanted to ask questions, and it was the staff who felt a little bit uncomfortable having those conversations. So it's made us realise that we need to do more work around, relationships. I also said as well that it's about not just saying to the local authority or the CCG, what are you going to do about making, a good life for people with learning disabilities, but how we can work together to do that. And we meet on a weekly basis. That includes self-advocates, voluntary sector, CCG, commissioners from the local authority. So it's just a quick hit where we talk about issues that might have come up and what we need to do about it. But yes, certainly a collaborative approach is needed. I'll hand it over, Mark, to anybody else that was in our group.
We were talking about sort of reasonable adjustment and stuff like that to make it sort of a bit more reasonable, just a bit more better in terms of stuff. And we talked about, I was just talking about the part of our sort of smaller approach as our organisation age, for example, and doing strategies as well. So we're sort of looking at all them different things, and as well. So it kind of goes hand in hand together, really. It's sort of how do we make them stuff sort of more actioned rather than just talking. So yeah, it's and some people got the voices, they're speaking about it. Some of them haven't, and then yet it's not gone on to action and for the longer term or for an everyday perspective. So yeah.
I think it was also suggested that if anybody had any resources that had worked particularly well within their area, if the good practice and the shared learning could be shared more wider so that people can see, or have an idea what's worked well, what might not have worked as well.
Yeah, that seems really useful, doesn't it? Rather than us all creating the same thing around the country. Yeah,
and just making sure that they might do it differently, but the messaging is very simple and the same. Make sure it's sort of more co-produced as well, because sometimes it feels like it's just a one fit for all thing, and it's not.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks you both very much. Anyone else in that group want to add anything? Sean.
A different. I mentioned the last point of people with COVID issues. COVID issues is important to keep having tests, COVID tests. I'll get the right test, and I done. COVID is about people with learning disabilities. Anyway, we had meeting with the Northwest Traffic Associates, and some people are angry around this Boris Johnson saga, and I think it's disgraceful how Boris can get too far on these issues with the death of Philip and the inquiry into Greg report will come in. How all these Boris did is broke rules, and he broke the his birthday. He's got some houses got fined, and the centre got fined as well. Both got fined. The main thing is we need to look at the gun policy, how we can link to learning disability England, how we can challenge.
Okay. So I think there was some COVID specific things in there, which we might talk about on Thursday, Sean. But so about, I think it's about power, isn't it? And I was thinking about how we make sure that people with learning disabilities are treated well with everyone and listened to. Yeah, we might talk about some of those COVID things later, Sean.
Let's go into the rest.
Oh, you were signing Karen, are you?
There's a lot of our group. Let's go and do it.
Karen, do you mind filling us in on the rest? I can't spot you on my screen.
Me, Karen, or
but someone else in Sean's group, whoever is willing to put themselves forward.
I was the Karen in Sean's group with a number of other people, Roy and Philippa and Yvette and Sean and Lee. So, and I did make a little bit of a note as we talked. So following Sean, from your point there was a lot of discussion in our group about the importance of, and I'm going to say advocacy groups, speak up groups generally, huge amount of interest in getting people involved and people developing confidence. And we did talk a little bit about the whole range of people who start to develop their confidence to speak up and talk about what they want, all the way to people that are very experienced and involved in policy discussions and changing government agendas, and how important this whole piece of work is, and how we try to could we make that journey a bit quicker for some people, maybe, that the support is there to help them to get from, crikey, this is wonderful and I'm really enjoying becoming a self-advocate and speaking up, and then how to use it, use your skills, and that we did that in a way that really included everybody in all the different ways that people communicate. So that was a really important discussion in our group, and thinking about how to make information easier for people in all sorts of formats again. So it's just generally like that the whole chapter on advocacy, self-advocacy, was really, really important to everything. It underpinned everything. And how do we get people really skilled up? And people gave lots of examples about their self-advocacy organisations and what they were doing and the difference it had made. And that got us to thinking about having some way to share the good news when challenges are made and successes happen, so people can see a movement, and it can be very local and it might be quite small, and it could be really huge, whatever it is. But is there a way to have a forum to share those good news and show people that things can work? And then there's this a suggestion that the Equalities and Human Rights Commission could be involved. If we're thinking about involving others, this could be a good organisation to have involved because they can challenge government departments. And again, this moves us to that thing about making a change. And we talked about spreading the word, and people were really keen to do that. And a bit of a conversation about resources to help. We talked about a pledge card. That was an idea, or a way to people sign up or to show their affiliation of supporting the framework. So we had a number of different ideas about that that might be useful. We thought there's something missing, and that was around health. And maybe there is a chapter or a need for health, or to tie in when we think about how unequal health and access to healthcare is for people with learning disabilities. So we thought that probably something in there about health, the NHS, and going forward. And then I think I've captured everybody's comments. People will tell me if I haven't. And then I had a small one from me at Keyring, because I was thinking, gosh, there's so much, the framework is huge. If I'm going to make a change, what should I focus on? What bit will I focus on? And I suppose I came to, actually, perhaps we could, Keyring, play a bigger part in focusing on housing, because we support people to live in their own homes. So we have a very specific take on housing. But there's lots of other organisations also thinking about housing. But, you know, maybe it's gone a bit quiet on that front the last few years. And I just thought, well, maybe we should get back to doing more campaigning about people getting their own homes and places where they'd like to live. So that was my personal one for us there. And that was the breadth, roughly, of what we covered. And if there's anything else.
One more question on our group is we talk about all the Care Act stuff.
The Care Act, yes, you're right. We finished that, didn't we? That was the last thing we were talking about. Okay, so
Great.
Philippa, have you got anything to add? Lee?
You're on mute, Philippa, but I think you're shaking your head.
Lee?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, I can't see you speaking. No, oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing there. I think, you know, we're really happy to help link people up who want to campaign. So if, you know, that is something that, you know, if your group's interested in housing as well as Keyring, we could help you connect with Karen, you know, and we're really happy to help make those conversations happen. So let us know. And I think we must have one more group left. You see, the problem when you close the breakout room things is you don't know who was in which group anymore, and I can't pick on anyone, so you're going to have to volunteer yourself. Is anyone in a group who hasn't spoken want to share where you were up to?
I'll just say that we were talking a lot about relationships and about how central and how important they are to everyone's good life. And we were talking about people's right to have connection to other people and to have relationships in their lives. And from there, we were sort of talking about rights more generally, sort of in the framework, and could we have a sort of a little rights section in each chapter that sort of went along with the bigger human rights legislation stuff. So that was just something we thought about. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else from our group wants to talk about some of the other areas we looked at.
We talked a lot about people with profound and multiple learning disabilities and getting their voices involved, and also that there are rights and communication rights and all those sort of things already done through groups. I've forgotten the other lady's name who's involved with that group, but if you want to come up and say, but you know, so I think that's a connection that could be easily made, and that information, rather than reinventing it, putting it together. I thought that was useful. And we talked about, from my point of view, because I'm a nurse, from health perspective, and about making sure that right to life and the quality of somebody's life, and thinking about that. I thought that's important, because often clinicians and certainly in hospitals make decisions about people's quality of life and and what is a good life for them, and they're making those decisions on behalf of somebody, rather than getting involved with the person or the people who support them. So I think that's a fundamental thing when you're talking about the health side of things, to make sure that happens. And there is the structure there, but it's not always understood or known by other clinicians outside the learning disability sort of world. So things around mental capacity and decision making and all those sort of things, I think, really need to still be pushed strongly. That was my point from our discussion.
Great, thank you. I feel like there's been a couple of points about health across the group, so maybe that's one of the next chapters that we need to prioritise. That's great. Does anybody?
I think there is an awful lot of information out there. So rather than developing something, along, I think links to, because there's so much there around that liaison side of things, and I work for the Mortality Reviews, the LEADER programme, and NHS England, and then you've got social care. There's a lot there, so perhaps actually linking with them rather than writing something because it could sit alongside very nicely without a lot of amendment, I think.
I think the only issue around that, just quickly, is the fact that everyone does it differently. And I think sometimes it's not always easy and it's not always easy read than what it is. So I suppose, even though yes, there are some people haven't got that information. So I think rather than going to one particular organisation and just signposting that to that one person. Some people have it in, some people meaning could be very different in other locations. So you could be saying, for example, the document was in, let's say, I'll just put Derby just for the sake of it, all right? Yeah. And then it'll be very different than what we do in Suffolk. So I think
I think perhaps you misunderstood what I was saying. I was saying more linked to a national programme, and then obviously in local areas you have to. You can be signposted, but I was just thinking, if you're doing a big document around the people, good lives and the right to things, it's a national thing, and there is a lot of information that people can use to link in, but perhaps more usefully locally. I get what you're saying, so that's what I was trying to get at.
I think one of the reasons that health hasn't been a chapter that we've already done is because we know actually, there's the NHS long-term plan, and lots of people have been thinking about that for, quite a long time, and things have been done recently. So that's why we held off on that a little bit. But it is obviously still very important to people. So yeah, I suppose we can see. I think it was Donna and then Sean.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to say, I think that part of the framework is about almost setting out what hasn't been done or what needs to be done. And I think the danger with the long-term plan is that it was written 3 years ago, and now we're post-COVID, and there's a lot of impact on services, on people's mental health, on people's physical health. And what worries me, and Sam knows this anyhow, and so does Henry, is that people in the NHS are very fixated about their targets in the long-term plan. But that was a while back now. And actually there are really, and there are some things that are changing in the NHS which really worry me, which are things like, and I'm speaking from seeability and eye care here, but things like people being told you have to make your own appointments to go to clinics, or you will do it all digitally. and people could end up really risking exclusion because there's such huge waiting lists now. And we know the health inequalities are so big and people still die too young. And it really does worry me that the NHS leadership aren't taking ownership of that. I don't see them speaking to the people responsible for outpatient transformation, for example, in the learning disability team. And they should be saying, you know, and there's a big health inequalities programme, but it doesn't talk about learning disability at NHS England. Why not? Why are they missing? You know, why are we missing? So I think there is something there for learning disability England for us all to get to grips with and say, actually, this is, you know, we're 3 years on from the long-term plan and now we've had COVID and we all saw the health inequalities from COVID and the discrimination. So there's definitely something there, I think.
Thanks, Donna. Really great point and lots of nodding. I can see. Sean, you were next.
No, I had one-to-one with you recently around I want to take part around the government and human rights. Have you got the response to that, right?
Oh, I don't know. We maybe catch up about that outside of this though, Sean. Is that okay? Is that all right?
Yeah. And the other thing I need to take part is the government itself.
Oh, explain what you mean.
No, about the governor's conversation. I wanted to take part in that as well.
All right, okay. I'll catch you about that afterwards, Sean. Annie, you're next.
Yeah, it's a bit off at a tangent really, but just wondering where, if there is any clear kind of goal where this is leading to, or how you're going to use this to influence government policy or whatever. But I wondered whether there might be some mileage in perhaps looking at somewhere like the Scottish strategy, the Keys to Life, where they were very much involving people with lived experience in that whole policy. And I know the grass is always greener, but it kind of looks a lot more inclusive than anything you ever see in England. And from my point of view, it specifically mentions and acknowledges groups that are often forgotten or left out. So people with profound and multiple learning disabilities are in there, you know, as examples of what good lives look like.
And I think, you know, we really want to push this to be something that kind of replaces like valuing people and that kind of thing. And at the conference, Rob did such a lovely job of explaining this, I think, and I just know that I will never do it justice in comparison. And Sam, I can see you've knocked your camera back on. So if you think you can do it justice.
I don't want to be set up to try and do as good a job as Rob Gregg did, no. I put my camera on because I have to go in a second. I'm really sorry. I have to go to a monitoring meeting. I'd much rather stay here with all of you, even if it wasn't a monitoring meeting. But I think, Annie, there's a really good point. We hope ultimately this will help create an understanding of why we need a cross-government strategy of some sort. But we kind of needed to get something out there for us all to decide if we could get behind the idea, didn't we? You know, and the more you can get other people to say, this isn't perfect, but I'm up for trying to make something happen, then that'll be how I think we get the energy behind and enough people buying into it. And it's got to be all of us, hasn't it? We can't have one bit of the community do it on their own, or, you know, we can't leave out housing providers. I was really thrilled to hear Karen talk about that, but we also can't leave out people with a profound and multiple learning disability, and we can't leave out people with who don't use words to communicate but might not make, you know, we have to find a way of us all having our say in this or having a stake. So I think that's where we're going, is at this point, we want to spend 6 months getting as much feedback as many people involved. And then we come up with our next version between us all, where we go, well, it's, you know, and then practically in the short term, the government are about to consult on the Down Syndrome Act guidance. And actually, this gives us all a great framework for what we think matters. So short term, we've got that, but that was never in a plan. We didn't know we'd have that. But so yeah, so it'll hopefully be helpful to everybody as well as a bit of a thing to help us all respond to that. So all of you, if you're part of any kind of group or organisation, be getting ready for how we can help the government understand what that guidance should say, so that it doesn't make life worse for anybody and actually helps make life work better for everybody, you know. Anyway, I've got to go to a monitoring meeting now, sorry.
I think we need commissioners do more.
We need commissioners to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I got a commissioner in my hand, and not just the regional and the national. If they got the commissioners as well, they got a commission board.
Yeah. But we can help them, Sean, by giving them stuff like this, giving them really clear actions as to what they need to do, so that they know what a big group of people think is important. Because sometimes they don't.
Our commissioner, Sam, is like, it's a dealer. She's our commissioner for Salford.
Yeah.
Like, we need to get that across the national, across the country.
Exactly. I've got to go. See you later.
Bye. Gary and I met with some people from the Local Government Association, didn't we, Gary? And that was kind of a group of commissioners from across the country, and lots of them were really excited about the framework. So I think if you want to take it to your local commissioner, and then it's coming from people who are local to them rather than them hearing me and Gary, and you know, we don't live in their patch and they haven't got a stake in us kind of thing. It would be great if you guys could share it with people like that. Gary Stark, I think you've got your hand up.
Yeah. PE, math wearing, all that lot, with port workers. When that don't happen, that with off maths.
Say that again, Gary, because I don't think
the port workers, all that lot.
About wearing masks.
Right.
It's just that when they go outside with them, then they got wearing masks. Then coming in homes. You know, a bit odd, all fiction lately. Port workers do not wear masks.
Yeah, I think that's a meeting for. I think this is where people got confused, Rachel. That we've got a meeting on Thursday.
Too much going on.
Yeah.
I think, Gary, if you want to join us on Thursday, we could maybe talk about that there, because that's maybe a little bit different from.
There's too many work on it because a lot of people that understand.
So I suppose that's about support workers working with.
We can add it on here.
They
as well.
want to be worked with, isn't it? So if you want your support worker to wear a mask, then they should do that when they're with you, shouldn't they?
Yeah. There you go.
Great. Thanks, Gary. Does anybody else have anything that they would like to add? We've got 10 minutes left.
Wow, it's early. You're right.
I don't know what's happened.
Maybe we need to do another task.
I think, Rich, is we need to look at health and wellbeing strategy.
Great, thanks, Sean. And one of the big things that Gary Borley and I are thinking about is about how we include people who haven't really been included so far. So if any of you have people that you work with who you think, oh, do you know what, maybe their voice wasn't heard in the first round of this, then we would love to have a chat to you about how we can make that happen. We know that for some people that's maybe not a Zoom call, and we'd be really happy to have a chat. Or if anyone's got any thoughts now that would like to share on the best ways to do that, that would be great.
Just an idea on that, actually, Rachel. Yeah, because if some people could, like, maybe this is an offline mode thing, not just so much on Zoom, but if they have maybe a digital camera kind of thing, and maybe video, or you could do it on your phone, and then just video some kind of like life experiences of good life, or in a good way or bad way. That might be a way to do it, and then just email it. That's just an idea I'm thinking of.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think we're really happy to, have kind of contributions from people in different ways. So yeah, anything like that would be interesting. Gary Bowley, you've put your hand up. We've got something you would like to add?
Yes, you might like to put in there about people with more complex needs and profound learning disabilities. Sorry to add all this jargon, but they need to have their voice heard in this, and also about adding a new chapter. Nobody's added about changing places, and we are still. There has been a grant for changing places, about 500. From the government, and we desperately need more of them to be around the country. If people are going to go out to nightclubs and going to football matches and going out to places, and if you can connect that with all like the transport and everything. People need to go out more often. You need venues like changing places.
Yeah, I think when we met in Birmingham, one of the topics was about accessibility. I think as a big overarching umbrella. So maybe that's something that we need to remind ourselves of. Thanks, Gary. Gary Stark, you've got your hand up again.
Yeah, Longterm hospitals have that then 40 who in Longterm hospital.
That's a great point, and I wonder where long stay hospitals come under as a chapter. Maybe they come under several, but the people who are currently in one, we probably need to hear their voices as well, don't we? That's a really good point, and I hadn't thought of that. So thank you, Gary.
Hospitals is a difficult one at the moment, actually, because sometimes I went to before Christmas, I believe I went to hospital just to check my hearing aids and stuff like this, and then I had an alert later in that time frame, 5 days after, from the COVID app to say, I was in contact with someone with COVID. I thought, what, really? So the rest of Christmas I have to be kind of like on my own and everything. I thought, I want to spend some time with people, but it was like, and then people saying, oh no, you don't have to do that, delete the app and all the rest of it. I thought, oh please, just don't. And the thing is, I think this is where communication throughout the whole sectors are very important. Making sure that we get the right one rather than mixed messaging. And I think that certainly that's probably been about for quite a while now.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think that's a big message in the communication chapter. So it's not just about individuals communicating, but that kind of wider communication from the government and information that we give people and that kind of thing. Thank you. Sharon.
Yeah, I was going to say about people in long stay hospitals with learning disability. I mean, you're talking of a small population relatively, but a population that have been waiting 10 plus years. Some of them still to the system is there. The meetings, everything, but very little has changed for that group of people. So yeah, and I think through transforming care, you could link in with if you were wanting the voices of those people, I think that would be, you know, a good way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know lots of the self-advocacy groups and some of the people on this call are part of CTRs and things like that. So that's maybe another good route for us to hear from people. Elmi, and then back to Sean.
I don't know if people from the deaf community were involved in the first. There's a number of people with learning disabilities who are also from the deaf community that we could speak to.
I think not anybody that we particularly targeted to speak to, but people who've maybe got hearing impairments who've kind of come to things, but that's a great
I mean, that's the other thing that actually to put in our chapter list about people who've got multiple disabilities as well as a learning disability in there, because I think that's a massive missing. I think I'm going to use because sometimes we're not in boxes. I mean, we're not in the time of years and years ago when they say, oh, well, let's go to your learning disability service. Let's go to your, you know, sensory service or, you know, sensory needs services and that. I think we need to not, I'm going to talk about this anyway within the county council here. But we don't need to be in boxes. Life is more than just in boxes. And I think people are still putting us in boxes. And you know, so yeah, it's worrying.
And I think a good opportunity for us to think about how some people's identities intersect and how that might mean that they have different experiences, and those are experiences that we need to try and capture and understand in the framework. Yeah, really important. Sean, if we take a last point from you.
Yes, I think we need take-home care as well. Take-home care is important for people with learning disabilities. How we can help each other and help in the group, can help in the organisations, and we need to support people. Support people is important. Everyone chance to speak up, and we need that in our communities. In the community, we need to have opportunities. Focus on what we're doing, stick to the rules, and stick to the point.
Thanks, Sean. A lovely comment to end us on. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Had loads of great ideas today, and my piece of paper is covered in notes, so lots of good things for us to pick up on, I think, after this. Gary, do you want to say something about the other ways we might continue having these conversations, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I was going to say that if people want to continue doing this, or with other groups with people who are not far from you, or around the country, you know, we can always help to put you in contact with other groups who are actually concentrating on these issues. And also, if you want to continue having these kind of meetings, and continue taking part and bringing some new ideas for the chapter, please let us know, you know, because this is as we said, this is only the start, and the finished product is a long way away, and I think this will continue into next year.
Yeah, definitely. We run a session every other Thursday, which is currently called Self-Advocacy and Families session, but it is open to everyone, and the name's going to change to kind of reflect that, because I think some people think that means because it's called that, but it is actually for everyone, and that might be a place if anyone wants to come and have a chat about the work that they're doing, or share it, and just kind of come and network with people, you know, whenever you fancy joining. that's a nice opportunity that's not specifically about Good Lives, but just there if anyone wants to join, and it's kind of open for everyone. We're planning on doing some sessions for each of the chapters, and that might be webinars or meetings for people to share what they're doing. We're also really happy for other people to host those. So, you know, if you've got a particular interest in a topic and you think actually we do a great job of that, let us know. We would love to support you to do that rather than us doing it. You know, we know that we're not the experts in everything, or even lots of things really. But it would be great if anyone wants to pick that up with us. We would really like it. And yeah, kind of just keeping in touch really. You know, I don't want it to feel like people have to send us things and, you know, we have to be able to tick it off and say like, oh yes, they've contributed. Like, it's not like that. But if you want to, what you've got going on, if we can help share it in any way, we would really like to help you do that. So yeah.
And spread the word, you know. I think that's the more people know about Good Lives, the better. And yeah,
Can I add a word?
I think Claire wants to say something
about inclusion.
Say that.
You were just talking over them what Darryl you were trying to say. Yeah, I would say that again.
Can we know this work we did around inclusion?
Oh, the work you did with Gary?
Yes.
We can maybe think about that. Was for something specific, but we can maybe think about sharing it for something else.
If they would share it, do a group.
Yeah.
Can I share?
Yes, we'll have a think about that, Sean. Thank you.
I need a brief of Gary as well. Sure.
Yeah. Claire,
Okay.
you have your hand up.
Oh, I was just saying, obviously, I work at Supported Loving, so we run, most people know that we're a network around sex and relationships. So we're happy to host one around relationships, and we're looking to, you know, it'd be great to work closely with Learn Disability England, because we're looking to, we've never actually published, like, you know, what good support looks like. We've got a rights charter, but we've never really been really clear about, you know, what support actually good support looks like. So it'd be great to work with Learn Disability England members to get their feedback on that, and maybe we could centre that around a webinar. So obviously that's a really important part of a good life.
Yeah.
And Claire, you did those
Claire.
cards, those marvellous cards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, advertised.
Yes, the Sheila Taboo. Please buy them, because because I've got my first product, and if they don't sell, my finance team will be angry. Only joking. Thank you. Yeah, we did make those.
Thanks, Claire. That's a great offer, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. But yeah, thank you very much for coming, everybody. We've now, in fact, run over, having had all that extra time to have a conversation. So thank you for sticking with us till the end. And I'm sure we will be in touch, and you are definitely welcome to be in touch with us as well if there's anything you want to share. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you all later.